Welcome to the Fashion Translator. I'm Claire, your host. Together we explore how AI and innovation are reshaping the fashion industry through creativity, technology, and global partnership. For today's episode, I'm pleased to welcome Cayla O'Connell Davis, CEO and co-founder of Subset, a sustainable innerwear brand that champions ethical production and circular processes. Cayla, thank you for joining me. Could you please start by introducing yourself and sharing what led you to build Subset?
Sure. Well, thank you so much, Claire, for having me. I'm thrilled to chat with you today. My personal background has always been in apparel, and I had been working in pretty much every facet of the fashion industry, from retail and merchandising. I've been on the design side, the branding and licensing side of things. And I had somewhat of a personal crisis right around 2014 when Rana Plaza happened. We were kind of producing things overseas en masse, and we all of a sudden started to really see the impact of the production on not only the environment, but also on the people who are producing our garments all the way across the world. And so I was determined. I love this industry. I love self-expression. I love, it's one of the oldest industries in the world. I thought there had to be a better way. I went back to school. I did my graduate degree in fashion studies at Parsons, and I focused my research on sustainable supply chains and more on the conceptual, but also applied kind of paradigm of thinking about circularity and regenerative resources and renewable resources and biological versus technical inputs and kind of all these various ways that we can kind of reimagine the fashion industry from the inside out and make it not so detrimental. Could it even be positive, a net positive for the world? And admittedly, I had a hard time getting a job after that because no one knew what I was talking about. This was a long time ago, over a decade. And obviously we've come very far, but I really had to kind of forge my own path after working in various capacities with other brands. And I was fortunate to be hired by a company that was doing licensing and materiality explorations and branding within the larger retail network in the US. So bringing sustainable products and home goods and clothing to major doors in retailers like Bloomingdale's and Macy's and Bed Bath & Beyond, Nordstrom, et cetera. But I kind of realized that the best way to do it is to actually start sustainably from the beginning in your supply chain. And so I took the leap and called up one of my girlfriends from graduate school and said, hey, do you want to start this business idea with me? I had kind of this light bulb moment of, we need to pick an item that everybody wears every day. If we want to make a real impact, we have to choose something that most people wear, and most people wear underwear. And that is where we started Subset, from organic cotton, fully certified sustainably through the entire supply chain, from the seed to the shelf, is what we like to say. And yeah, we try to be as sustainable as we can in every business decision and in every material choice, with every partner we work with, packaging, energy sources, the tape on the box, you name it, all of it is highly considered. And so that is how Subset came to be.
Seems like sustainability is really it's the soul, it's at the core of the company.
100%. We like to say it's our reason for being. And so Subset, we offer organic cotton intimate apparel for every day and every body. But our mission as a company is to really make better clothing for this planet and to propel fashion's transition as an industry toward more sustainable practices in the supply chain and material choices. I think that over the past, let's call it probably 50 years, fast fashion has really ramped up. Consumption practices have really changed with the average consumer. There's this kind of pressure from social media that consumption is king. There's something new. You need to be photographed in something different every day. And it has really changed the way that we consume as a customer. You have way more clothing. We have way more clothing than we did 20 years ago. than we do now. And a lot of that is unfortunately fossil fuel derived, crude oil derived, poly-rich garments that have not great effects on the body because they're not natural fibers, but also they're really these horrible chemicals that are known to be carcinogens, heavy metals, PFAS, forever chemicals. And we completely exclude any of that. We adhere to the restricted resources list, but we go well beyond that with our certification to the Global Organic Textile Standard, as well as to the OEKO-TEX standard or ECO-TEX standard 100, which is the safest materiality standard for fabric that exists and materials that exist and dyestuffs and inputs. Basically, it's the safest for human skin, and it's rated toward infancy as the safety standard. And so when we think about our underwear, if it's safe enough for the baby, it's safe enough for mom as well, and also everyone else.
That's the highest standard.
Exactly. And I always say formaldehyde has no business being up in your business with as a chemical. Like, why do we need formaldehyde on our underwear? Who cares if it's might be wrinkled, but that's what it's there for. It's a wrinkle-free agent. So we prevent.
If we think about like your commitment to this transparency and this high focus on choosing the right material and all of this, how would you say that on the day-to-day, how does this impact the business, and what does it look like in terms of operation and building the collections as you go?
It's incredibly time consuming. It's also resource intensive. I would say we narrow our scope significantly when we start from the standard. So we have like a code of conduct that anytime we're meeting a new vendor, we have them sign on to. They have to disclose transparently a lot of their business practices to us as a company, but also to a third-party certifier that makes sure that it meets that blue sign certification. Fair trade, we also adhere to Fair Trade International. And so when you start to tick all these boxes off of you must be certified to organic textile standards, ECO-TEX standard 100, blue sign certification, Fair Trade International, you're narrowing your scope tremendously with the honestly eligible and credible businesses that can work within this network. And so it's really hard. It's really hard. And then on top of it, like all of that is wonderful, but we need to make a product that is good, right? So we need to make sure that the partner that we are relying on to manufacture is sourcing very high quality cotton on top of it being organic. It has to perform, it has to be durable, it has to be designed impeccably. And so we're coming at it from two incredibly high standards of not only performance and use, but the customer needs to be so happy with it and want to come back because it doesn't matter if it's not going to work for them or work for their body or last over time or isn't a good product.
The fact that all the certification and still.
Exactly. And honestly, that would be a huge miss because we are trying to make, eco-friendly clothing accessible. And we do all that heavy lifting so the customer doesn't have to worry about it, right? So it's already going to compete with X, Y, and Z in the market because it's just as good of a product. I think that unfortunately, natural products, organic products, eco-friendly products have had kind of this, quality question for a long time that it doesn't perform as well or it's good. Like you think about deodorant. Deodorant's a great example. People are like, oh, I really would love to wear a natural deodorant, but it doesn't work for me. Like they need the chemicals, right? Which is just not true. Like you just gotta probably detox your body and find the right one. But
this preconceived idea, correct.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And speaking of this preconceived idea, where do you see the biggest disconnect between the mainstream perception and what actually works both for people and the planet?
Oh, this is such a good question. And honestly, I think a year ago, my answer would be different, but I think we need to normalize the cost. I think the biggest disconnect from people, eco-friendly products, organic certified products, natural products have always been a little more expensive. And I think that that's our biggest hurdle as a company, is to deal with the fact that like we don't have incredible margins like our competitors might, who aren't opting for these better materials and better standards in their supply chain. But the perception and that preconceived notion, that is what I think has become so problematic with the proliferation of fast fashion, is not only the expectation that I can have a new t-shirt tomorrow and I have it in 15 colors and then I have another one, you know, the next day, but it's that it's so cheap and it's really inexpensive. And I think that we have unfortunately conditioned our culture to think that, you know, this entitlement almost of like, I shouldn't have to pay this much for a pair of underwear. And I think we actually need to normalize that you should pay more for something that somebody is hand making. Some person is making that. What is the value of labor? What is the value of your safety in the materials that are going on your clothes? And what is the value of the fact that this is a natural fiber that comes from the earth and that can safely return to the earth? And that honestly, I think is the biggest disconnect that we as a company have really been, you know, challenged by, frankly, in the market, especially as we've expanded from like kind of I like to call them the organic cotton evangelists, of people who are already believers. They already wear their natural deodorant. They've been waiting for us, right?
Yeah.
And then it's more those mass market consumer that has been used to buying, you know, a 5-pack for $5 from Fruit of the Loom or what have you, of underwear. So that I would say is our biggest disconnect and challenge.
I can really tell that there's an education that needs to happen, and I completely agree with you on this disconnect. But also, I feel like the world is ready. We're ready for that. We're ready, and people are more open to consider it and to talk about it. If we look at not so far back, there's been this awakening of organic and of eco conscious, and it was so great. It's so great that people were more open to hear about it, and that the word was getting around, and that we were going beyond the evangelist, as you were saying, and more towards mainstream. But then that kind of went a bit sideways when it became more of a trend than something of an essence. And I feel we went a bit, we sidetracked there a little bit, because the intention is good and the essence message is there, but it became, on certain angle, it was done performatively, and even in the clothing industry only, there was this still, they wanted to put the label, they wanted to put the hang tag to say organic, but then when you look really at the fiber, like the content label, you see that it's 10% and the rest is still, you know, like there's been this happening, that I feel we're kind of straying from the core message, but the intention is there. And once people have opened their eyes, I think like this is the next phase. Okay, first phase, we needed to acknowledge the need for it, to know it existed. And now that the consumer got excited about it, okay, but then wait, like, is this really what I'm buying? Is it like, I think it's coming. Right now, it was this hype, but now the next phase is education.
I think you're so right. I can't even tell you. I mean, we've been in business since 2018, and the consumer cognizance around just even what we mean when we say something is sustainable or something is organic or transparency, to your point, like all of those actually mean very different things. And so it was just such a bucket of like, everyone was getting lumped into this space of like, oh, you're ethically produced, which means you're sustainably produced, which means you're this and then that. And then all of these bigger, more heritage household names are like, well, that sounds like something we need to do. And I love to call it bandwagon marketing, right? Bandwagon branding, et cetera, where they start to say, no, we're making this sustainable. And this is like I've seen companies, I'll leave the names out, but I've seen companies call something cotton and there's no cotton in it. And they say, this is our new cotton. Like, we've invented this cotton fabric. And oh my gosh, this is so
cotton feel, cotton,
misinformation. Yeah. And so, yes, I think that it like, we went really too far potentially in the wrong direction, and honestly, social media, I think, has had a really positive impact on this, where the
Yes.
education on TikTok and all these young
Yes.
people are coming out and saying, let's break this down. Let's look at the receipts, right? And
Yeah.
then thankfully, that is why we do invest in transparency and have such incredible vetting and certifications from third parties. And we're able to disclose this information when people who are really looking under the hood, they're
Yeah.
trying to investigate and understand the legitimacy and the credibility of these claims versus what is just greenwashing by, you know, companies that are trying to take advantage and exploit a moment in time, when
Yeah.
a customer has interest in something that is genuine and better for the environment and for the customer direction. So I think you're right. And, you know, social media has its pros and its cons, and it's had some good impacts. And I think that is
Yes.
definitely, yeah.
For sure. I couldn't agree more. I think if you think about social media, it's such a powerful tool. Like if you think about a few years ago, the only way to kind of call out these fake or these practices that were damaging, where you had to do like a documentary, where everyone had to go watch TV to see like who was talking about this, where now it's a lot more accessible and it's a lot more relatable. When these people that you follow their lives and their daily action, or you like their aesthetic or whatnot, and then they share this, it lands 100% more than, oh, let's go watch this documentary about this subject. It's so much easier to relate, and even it contributes to this education that we were talking about, because even as you were saying, like, we don't need that much clothes, there's been all of this movement, like outfit repeater and celebrities wearing again the same gown on the red carpet to make this statement. There's so much that could be done with this, you know, to bring this awareness that is really needed.
Yes, 100%. It's great.
Now, tell us more about the Take Back program that recycles intimates into insulation, carpet padding. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So when we launched back in 2018, we launched at the same time our e-commerce company. We launched the world's first intimates recycling program, which no one had ever heard of. And honestly, we were like, how's this going to land? This is kind of funny. You know, it was just something that didn't honestly, we believed in it, but we weren't sure what people were going to think about it, right? Because intimate apparel coming back to us post-consumer, what are we doing with it? Like, are people going to be comfortable putting their old undies in a box? But the funny thing is that everybody has underwear in the back of their drawer that they have had for a decade too long. It's so funny. I mean, it immediately took off. It was so popular. I mean, every news article we got was like about this recycling program. It was like, yeah, they make really incredible, sustainable intimates, but have you also seen this? This is the coolest thing. And I mean, it was just in droves. And we launched the business out of my apartment in Manhattan, out of my guest room, which was this very small room that had no windows and wasn't even really a legal bedroom, if you want to think about it. And we were getting this volume back, like hundreds of packages a day from people. We incentivized it because it's like, okay, you're doing this great thing. Like, you're not throwing out this textile waste, because it is kind of a disconnect. Like, you have an old pair of socks, you have an old pair of underwear, you have a bra that's totally stretched out. Feels kind of weird to say, oh, I'm going to throw this in the garbage. And that's because you shouldn't do that. There's like this mental pause for a reason. You can't donate that. It's not allowed. Don't even try. And obviously resale is not an option either. So this was a very unique problem in our vertical in the industry that we were determined to solve for. And that really came out of, you know, my personal background and trying to think about the supply chain in this more cradle to cradle kind of paradigm shift. So the Take Back program was a phenomenal hit. It has gone through so many iterations. We would give free pairs for if you sent in a box. We started a discount. It got so big that we ultimately had a moment as a company and said, are we an underwear company or are we a recycling company? And we honestly had to like pivot and spin it out. And so we actually started to outsource it. And so we have a couple of best in class partners whom came up during this time because they similarly recognized that this was a huge issue, particularly for our category. But prior to that, we were recycling it with local recycling kind of nodes in and around New York City and in New Jersey. And we would recycle that down into shoddy, which is like a fiber pulp almost.
Right.
And this is like all post-consumer, very worn out fabric. So there was not really any hope for it to be recaptured. And so we would make that into a shoddy, and then that would be made into like insulation for buildings and construction, or pressed into like a composite that was kind of like an insulation or a padding for rugs. You know, you think about furniture batting. We made punching bags at one point. It was like a very fun end product that was like the second life for all of this textile waste, because about 85% of our clothing ends up in a landfill, and 95% of it could actually be recaptured for textile recycling. But problem is that you have to identify what the materiality is. And predominantly the intimate apparel industry is like a poly blend. And so it is not as good for fiber to fiber recycling as, you know, like your home linens might be, because you have a lot of cotton sheets out there. It's a lot of blends that can be kind of difficult to identify. But our more technical recycling that we do with our own product, because we have returns or we have things that we just couldn't sell, whether for a defect reason or what have you, we're not allowed to sell anything that gets returned to us by law, even if it was never tried on. If it's unpackaged, it's unsaleable. And our return rate is very low for our industry, actually. However, you know, you still have a lot because big business and lots of volume. So we had to figure out, okay, what can we do with this? And we've been able to, with a certain partner, Super Circle, be able to recycle that into actual fiber to fiber outcomes where we're playing into recycled cotton, which has been amazing. And we're so thrilled that we've been able to do that, because it took a really long time to get there. Yeah. So.
Well, good job. That's pretty impressive. And when it comes to the consumer, how would you say that their feedback has impacted your brand or your product? Tell us a bit more about how this works for you.
We have such an incredible community. I think it's because it's such an intimate product. We have a very intimate relationship with our customer, for lack of a better term, or, you know, pun intended, I suppose. But we are incredibly ears to the ground. I always say that our customer base designed the first product that we came out with after launching, because we listened to what they needed, right? We had this hole in our assortment that they were like, I need this from you. I need this from you. Same with our bra collection. Like, we were able to introduce those styles because of their feedback, which has just been so amazing. You know, we have this like clean clothing cult that is just really dedicated to what we're doing, and they love to give us feedback, and we love to hear it from them. So we have like VIP focus groups, or we'll do, you know, a special survey just for them on it'll be like a very specific topic, like whether it's color or it's on our sustainability standards. Like, what do you got? What's important to you all? What do you want to see from us? And that has been, I mean, just, it's so important. I mean, you don't exist without your customers, you know, as a company. So I think that feedback loop it's incredibly sacred to us and really, really guides us.
Yeah, I think that's a very strong pillar. We were talking about the pillar at the beginning, like the transparency, and then you have the customer feedback. So I think with all of these very strong pillar, that gives a very clear direction to the future.
We hope.
And if we think about AI and technology that are emerging in the world and in direct link with the fashion industry or the supply chain, how would you see new technology, or what's coming, what are the innovation that can really play a role in terms of reducing waste or make the biggest impact for the future?
Yeah, AI is such a complex topic for a company that like prides itself on sustainability, right? Because I think there are so many pros, but then there's a lot of cons. And I would say that we are trying to figure out exactly what AI means to us as an organization. And to your point, I think it is much more on the operational and organizational kind of nodes of the business within the supply chain in which we're going to be able to leverage it, whether that's research, it could be, but also like we have single SKU packages that could potentially be automated. We're testing robots in our warehouse in Ohio, which is really cool, and in Brooklyn. And we have tried great lengths to get our waste down in our CMT and in our actually cut and sew facilities, because that's just like what our best practices are, right? We want to reduce waste and use that to make accessories like scrunchies or what have you, fab scraps to recycle it into, textile recycling systems as well. But I think there's absolutely room for AI to kind of help automate, cutting and more focused lasers and kind of efficiency around that certainly as well. And time will tell. I think as an e-commerce company, AI is having a lot of impacts on, the shopper and how the internet is working in general, and what people are doing to, how they are finding and discovering brands. And so we're absolutely leaning into that to try to keep up and stay ahead, frankly, because it's this kind of like, if you're not going to engage with it, you will be left behind.
Correct. Yeah, it moves so fast that if you're not staying ahead, you're already behind. Like it's that fast these days. So when it comes to your business right now, if you could today automate one part, which one would it be?
If I could automate one part, I think it would probably be, it's kind of hard to narrow it down. I honestly think it would be on the marketing side of things, because marketing has changed so much in the past 5 years. And whether that's like content and testing and what ads are resonating with people, that is huge labor. It's like a lot of your brain power. It's a lot of me testing new copy. It's a lot of our team spinning up assets to see what's winning and what's working and gaming the system. So I think I would probably want to automate that, most specifically the marketing piece.
And if we think about the next 3 to 5 years, what would be the next growth phase for Subset?
This is a great question. We have been testing into some very exciting new programs within our material wheelhouse, which I can't speak to yet officially, but we would love to introduce a new product assortment that would change the game for our customers. It's something that they've been asking for a long time, and I'm very excited to hope to introduce it in 2027. So new product specifically that would compete with the kind of synthetic offerings of the world. So if you can read between the lines there. And then, I think it's just kind of continuing to support our mission and materiality and getting organic cotton into the more hands of the people in the US, because this is one market we need to continue to expand into. So
correct. The world is the limit. So Cayla, for sure, there's a lot of exciting things that are coming both for you and for Subset. We'll be sure to keep an eye. For the listeners who want to stay connected, all the handles and the link will be in the description. Cayla, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Claire.